What's going on YouTube? Chlorobuzz here, back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we are going to be recapping the Pittsburgh Regional results in its entirety. It's the first NA Regional of the new 2026 season. Again, before this we did have Monterrey Regionals as well as Frankfurt the previous weekend there. So this is now the third one of the new season, and now after this you have Milwaukee in 3 weeks here. So of course results from this tournament will be looked at a little bit more closely in the coming days, of course, in preparation for that next NA regional, which is again Milwaukee there. But also at the same time, by the way, the same time that this was going on, we did also have a Victory Road September challenge. So we'll also recap that in another video as well. But Pittsburgh had a lot going on there, and we have a lot to discuss here because there was everything, okay, from the standard cores doing well, but also a lot of niche Pokemon doing well, but also at the same time a lot of Pokemon that you normally see, but had some interesting sets, okay? And that is going to make all the difference when you have particular mirror matchups. So we're going to spotlight that, and let's see if there is, in fact, carryover into Milwaukee, and let's see how the usage stats change over time, right? But anyway, as far as Pittsburgh, pretty good turnout. Again, 700 plus players from the Masters side, so similar to Frankfurt here, and we did see Chuppa Cross come out on top. This is another regional result for Chuppa there, right? Remember, he did claim Toronto a couple of years back, almost at Pittsburgh as well, I think a year later. But now this is his second run as a regional champion. So again, congrats to him. He edged out Matt Tidd in the finals, who also had a really, really cool team, which again, we're going to spotlight in a second. But as always, as we like to do, we like to look at usage rates for day 1 and day 2. And then from there, we'll look at the top cut results, and then we'll look at cores and some notable niche Pokemon to wrap things up here. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and let's get started. All right, so here we are looking at phase 1 usage data, right? Not even day 1 anymore. Now they call this phase 1. All right, so the same 4 as we saw from Frankfurt, right? You got Gholdengo, Sneasler, Incineroar, and Rillaboom here. And this will probably not change as we head into Milwaukee. You'll probably get some flip-flop between the 4, right? But as far as like the 4, this is it, okay? Of course, Incineroar and Rillaboom, they've always been S tier staples for a long time now. Fake out pressure, and damage mitigation coming out from something like Parting Shot. Rillaboom, nowadays, you'll see, instead of U-turn, they also have high horsepower now, which is good because, again, look at the first 3. Weak to ground, weak to ground, weak to ground. So it does make sense for Rillaboom to run a ground type move to be able to hit these mons, right? Because the grass move sometimes just isn't enough there. And this is also why Blood Moon Ursaluna and regular Ursaluna are also so valuable here, right? Because the ground coverage is great into a lot of the top usage Pokemon here. But anyway, Gholdengo here, you'll see some variance in the items here, especially Choice Specs, which is in fact what won. But you'll still see the occasional Scarf and the Life Orb sets with Nasty Plot, of course. Being able to set that up just does so much damage in the meta. And then Dragonite, of course, still you have the Scale Shot sets with Tailwind and the occasional Extreme Speeds and Hazes. But we did get to see a new set from Ofamezi, right, who was running the Choice Band Giga Impact stuff. So we'll take a look at his team in a second, and let's see if that new Dragonite set carries on into Milwaukee there. I would imagine it would, right? There's going to be a couple people that want to try that out too. Blood Moon Ursaluna here, 28%. Again, still very, very good on a lot of those Doug cores, with Doug being, again, Dragonite, Ursaluna, and Gholdengo here. The Assault Vest variant is still very popular, especially with Vacuum Wave as that last 4th move there, priority move, which allows you to use that when you don't have any speed control on your side. So, yeah, and it still lets you hit Ghost types, for example, right? Again, you'll probably see, again, some carryover from Emmanuel's team, which was running that Terra Electric Yawn set with leftovers. And with Rillaboom Terrain Recovery, that just means the Blood Moon gets to stay on the field for a little bit longer. And Yawn just forces a lot of decisions from the opponent, man. Do I switch out or do I stay in? What do I do, right? And that creates space for setup later on, right? Then you've got the rain stuff at the bottom here, right? With Archaludon, Pelipper, and Basculegion. So, of course, it's one of the best archetypes to use right now, both, from a beginner level and then even at the advanced level, right? So that will always still be high in usage, at least for a while, right? It's already like month 5 into the format, and Arch Rain is still like very, very good. The Annihilate there, you'll see there at 6th place there. Again, Ape, still very good. Very, very annoying with Mouse Hold, of course, being able to go for these bulk up plays, and Rage Fist just does so much damage, right? When you touch the 8 when you're not supposed to. Okay, and the occasional final gambit sets, right? Along with sometimes you'll have coaching on the Annihilate, which can coach something like a Dragonite there, or maybe even another physical hitter. And that's different from Sneasler because, again, with the 8 being a ghost type, you can't fake it out. So that gives you an advantage there, especially if it's something like that, an Incineroar that wants to just intimidate this Sneasler and fake it out in case it does go for a coaching play. But then you have the Ninetales here, rounding it out, and as well as like physical Ursaluna. Again, physical Ursaluna sometimes on those Archaludon rain teams. Also on the Porygon-2 Balance teams, which we did get to see a bit of in this regional. But the Ninetales is really valuable right now for 2 reasons. One, it's great into Dragonite that only has Scale Shot. So how do you really even hit the Ninetales? You don't. And you get to force out a Terra potentially because as a Dragonite player, you don't want to get hit with a Icy Wind or a Blizzard, right? You can always change weather against the Pelipper rain teams. You can give your team bulk with Aurora Veil, right? And then you have disruption with stuff like Encore Disable. And also at the same time, you know, these Sneaslers, like I said earlier, they're dropping the Dire Claw because some of them are now opting for Grassy Seed Swords Dance set, and that set does not use Dire Claw. So if Dire Claw drops in usage, you can probably assume that more Ninetales would get more play because that's one less super effective attack that you have to worry into the Ninetales. And that is good if you're a Ninetales player. So we'll see what happens as the meta progresses. But, you know, honestly, no real change here from Frankfurt. You know, maybe some flip-flop in some of these placements, right? But this is to be expected. Then we go over here into phase 2. Still, honestly, not a whole lot of change. Yes, you have Tyranitar coming into the slot here at number 12. But technically, this was a 3-way tie. And I'm trying to remember what the other 2 mons were off the top of my head. We'll take a look when we look at Lab Mouse there. I think it was also Mailing Didi here that tied with it. But other than that, this is still the same thing, right? You still have Gholdengo, Incin, and Sneasler here at number 3. Rillaboom dropping down to number 6 is a little interesting. But again, not that much. Like 34 to 29 is, you know, 5% usage drop is still notable. But you're still within the top 6 here, right? And then same stuff here, right? Archaludon, Basculegion, Pelipper, they're still within the top 12, just not in the top 6 here. So no real significant change if you ask me, right? You know, the stuff that was good in day 1, as far as like top 12 usage, is still the good stuff in day 2 here. Now, again, as we always like to say, this is only, you know, scratching the surface here. You still have to look at the results to see what was in Top Cut, what won. Okay, because a lot of the stuff that was in like top 4 example, they're not even here in this graphic, right? For example, Sinistcha. Sinistcha was on 3 of the top 4 teams that finished in Pittsburgh. Yet you don't even see it on the graphic. So that is very telling, right? And we'll take a look at Sinistcha in a second, right? Because again, there was also another set that was actually quite useful on that, especially if you watch the stream there. All right, but anyway, that's it for usage data. So now let's take a look at the actual teams in Top Cut. All right, so now let's take a look at the top 8 teams here. We're going back into Lab Mouse. We'll take a look at Chuppa Cross's team first. And Chuppa is using a Dug Core here, right? With Dragonite, Ursaluna, and Gholdengo. But take a look at some ideas here from Chuppa. First of all, Blood Moon Ursaluna is Terra Fire. So that one you haven't really seen all that much, but you probably will see somewhat of a rise in it. This is still going to give you the Gholdengo Make It Rain resist, the same way that Terra Water Blood Moon did that as well. But now also at the same time with the Terra Fire, with so much Rillaboom running around, it'll also give you a resist to the Rillaboom Wood Hammers and Grassy Glides at the same time there. So nice little meta development there for Blood Moon Ursaluna. Then look at Gholdengo here. With Choice Specs, you haven't seen too much of Specs. There's the occasional ones, right? But now with Specs, again, now you can play a little bit faster and have immediate damage. So what you could even do right from the get-go is just like lead Incineroar Gholdengo and then just have like fake out pressure plus just raw Make It Rain damage, right? And even if you don't pick up KOs, it's still fine because Make It Rain, Terra Steel, okay, with Choice Specs Gholdengo, will just leave things with like either yellow health or like red health, even if you don't pick up the KO. And that's where things where like Blood Moon can come in, click Vacuum Wave, or Basculegion can come in, click Aqua Jet, or even like just their regular attacks as it is, and then just finish things off, right? So this gives you immediate damage pressure as a lead, right? And then you just have to worry about cleaning up in the end game. Then you have Incineroar here with Goggles Terra Grass set. Usually you don't quite see Grass Terra with the Goggles set because, again, this was supposed to like get around Amoonguss as well as like, you know, the Tyranitar Sand stuff. But also, you know, with the Goggles, you don't fall asleep. So you don't necessarily need the Grass Terra. But at the same time, Grass Terra is still quite useful against other, you know, water types like another Pelipper clicking, for example, Weather Ball in the rain, or even like another Basculegion, for example. You also get to resist ground coverage, right? Like from another, or from both Ursalunas for that matter, right? So Grass Terra still has its value even with a Goggle set over here. Then you have the Basculegion here with a Focus Sash. I expect this to increase in usage a little bit more, right? Just because, again, prior to this, it was always the Banded Basculegion, the Choice Scarf with the adaptability set on Basculegion, right? Because again, with adaptability, you're getting an increase in damage anyway. So now let's give you speed with the Choice Scarf, which you normally would not have if you were on a standard Archaludon rain team, because you have Swift Swim to give you the speed in the rain, right? But now what we're saying is, look, we're gonna slap on a Focus Sash here, right? Because again, this thing just dies to Sucker Punch from King Gambit. It dies to Grassy Glide, Rillaboom if you have like these Scarf or Choice Band items. So it's almost like you don't even have a Basculegion, right? Or you're forced to tear out of it. So one way around that is to just give this thing a sash. So this way you can take those Grassy Glides, you can take those Sucker Punches and live. And then from there, get off that key liquidation or last respects that you need to be able to get off to maybe win a match. And then you have the Mouse Hold here with Friend Guard support. Redirection ideas here, of course, would Follow Me and whatnot. Then you have Feint to Break Protect, which is also really useful. Super Fang, again, 50% chip damage. Put things in range. The key with Super Fang is you're not supposed to get KOs. You're supposed to chip them enough where they are in range for something like, you know, a Scale Shot or a Blood Moon plus or Hyper Voice or a Make It Rain or a Liquidation, right? That is the job of Mouse Ult here while still being supportive with the Follow Me and the Friend Guard support here. So really cool team from Chuppa. You know, you got a lot of standard mons here with some, you know, new ideas. Well, it's not even like new ideas. It's just like different ideas from the standard norm than what you're seeing right now there. Then we have Matt T's team, which again has a really, really cool squad here because you got a couple of mons that you normally just don't see all that often here. You've got Primarina Choice Specs. Now, once upon a time, back in Regulation H 1.0, Primarina was mainly used as a haze user. So this way you could remove stuff like Dondozo buffs or setup buffs in general. But now, you know, with that slot being covered by other Pokemon, yeah, the use for Primarina wasn't all that great and was dropped on a lot of teams, and people opted for stuff like Yawn, Dondozo, or, you know, the Basculegion, right, for their water type slot here. But now Matt Tid says, you know what, I'm still going to bring Primarina, but let's put it as an offensive bond here with Choice Specs. So again, another Specs user here, and you're still a Fairy type, right? So this is still really good in front of Dragonites with Scale Shot because they can't hit the Primarina. So what you could even do is just switch it in on a timely Scale Shot, soak up the Scale Shot because you take no damage, and then deal damage back with stuff like Hyper Voice and Moonblast here. And in a format where we just don't have that much fairies, where we're forced to Terra into a fairy type, like for example, Volcarona tearing for fairy, not this one, but just in general, Primarina says, you know what, you don't have to Terra. You can just use me as your fairy type, and you know, we can go from there, right? The same way like Sylveon sometimes gets usage, sometimes not. Again, Penguin was able to make it work on his team, but now you have Primarina that can, you know, pretty much do more, right? Especially with the damage, right? Whereas Pengy's Sylveon back from Monterrey was just like a supportive set with Yawn and Wish, even though it did have the Throat Spray. Anyway, so you've got water moves, you got fairy moves here. So again, lots of damage coming out here. But look at this over here, Hariyama, okay, with Thick Fat. Kind of interesting there. Terra type Psychic, that's supposed to resist, again, you know, Expanding Force shenanigans, ideally. And it will at least neutralize the flying weakness, right? But Hariyama, this is not Iron Hands, okay? But look at the set here. Of course, you're going to get a Fake Out user, right? You're not Guts, okay? You have other ideas here. You have Heavy Slam here, which is nice into other Pokemon because, again, the weight difference knockoff is again crucial, removing key items, and then the occasional close combats here, right? So you can easily just do stuff like Hariyama Sinistcha, click fake out, click trick room, and go from there, right? And speaking of Sinistcha, how about this? Heat proof Sinistcha. It's not hospitality, it is heat proof. And we saw this on stream a couple of times where these Sinistchas were just eating flare blitzes from like other Incineroars, right? And then you have the strength sap to just get recovery back, right? You weaken the Incineroars like we saw on stream a couple times there. And then you can even go for Calm Mind now. So you're going to boost up your special defenses along with your attack, right? With your Matcha Gachas here. So this is like a supportive Sinistcha that can sweep if needed, right? And here is the Gambit with the goggles set here. Another Swords Dance user. No Protect though. Opting for the Steel move here. Iron Head, Kowtow Cleave, Sucker Punch, and Swords Dance. So no Protect here. But look at Volcarona here. This is like support Volk, right? With Flame Body, Rage Powder, Struggle Bug, and Tailwind, right? So again, with Struggle Bug, you're just going to neuter damage, right? You have Rage Powder, and maybe you can get off a key burn against some physical attacker there. And speed control here with the Tailwind support, which is again something that Archaludon loves here. Power Herb, Sturdy, Terra Electric. We've seen this before on a lot of different teams there. But again, super cool team from Matt, man. What a run he had into the finals there. So congrats to him, man. Okay, let's see if that carries over into Milwaukee or even like into your locals, right? Then we have Daniel Yu, which looks like, again, one of those Archaludon Rain variants with Ursaluna. Okay, you have still Basculegion, no Sinistcha here. Oh, actually, no, we do have the Sinistcha. I'm so sorry. Yeah, this is it. So again, Archaludon with Pelipper, okay? And then you have the Sinistcha Ursaluna. That's a pretty standard core. Then you slap on Incineroar here. And then this is either something like a Gholdengo slot or a Basculegion slot here. And in this case, we're slapping on the Basculegion, the band set here. So you've got the Trick Room mode and you've got the Tailwind mode here, right? So again, a more traditional Sinistcha onto something like this. This is not new. We've seen this before. Congrats to Daniel on a great run there. And then another Sinistcha team down here from Dylan Matthews, right? Look at this. So same idea, right? So again, this type of variant is still strong. I like this type of Archaludon Rain where you have the Ursaluna and the Sinistcha on it, right? Because again, you have two ideas here, with that Trick Room mode and that Tailwind mode here that you can always use. And Sinistcha can benefit all of these mons here, right? Especially, Ursaluna and Archaludon, the main recipients of the support, because again, you can redirect fighting moves away from the Archaludon. You can redirect ground moves away from the Archaludon. And, Life Dew recovery for it, along with Ursaluna and such, right? Which, again, Ursaluna loves, doesn't want to take water type attacks, right? Or fighting type attacks. And again, Sinistcha is able to redirect that as well, right? So then as we go down after this, how about Justin Tang? Again, using the comfort pick. This is basically did his newest rendition of his Toronto team, which he also brought into Monterrey. Probably just adjusted the spreads a little bit. But for the most part, this is pretty much the same idea. So yeah, look, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you have a team that you are just super comfortable with, then just keep playing it, right? We saw that at the World Championships, right? From Giovanni. So Justin is more or less applying the same concept here. Then we go down here. Oh, how about the 6th place here? We got Joshua Lorsi here, man. Shout outs to Josh. We haven't seen him in a bit, so it was good to see him again, especially on stream, right? Him and Ofa Mezzi, right? Shout outs to both of them. We welcome them back. But here we have the Grassy Seed Acrobatics Sneasler, right? Again, this is that same idea, more or less, from Emmanuel, right? But this is Terra Water Blood Moon instead of Terra Electric there. I wonder if Lorsi adjusted the spread. Well, actually, I don't think Emmanuel revealed it anyway. So this is probably just Lorsi's spreads, right? And one thing that's notable that you'll probably see an increase of a little bit more later, right, is the Terra Blast Ninetales with Terra Ground here, right? Because again, this lets you hit Incineroar, this lets you hit Gholdengo, which is something that Alolan-Ninetales has a lot of trouble hitting because Blizzard is not going to do a whole lot of damage into those guys, right? So to have the Terra Blast available is quite useful in this case, right? And then it also puts pressure against Sneasler, right? Because again, Sneasler, it's also weak to ground. You force it to Terra, which, in this case, this Sneasler is not going to care, right? Because you have Terra Flying. But then that just makes you weak to the Blizzard spam, right? So I like this idea with the Ninetales. It can give you some pins in certain matchups there. So shout out to Lorsey there. And Rillaboom here, there we have the high horsepower, of course, like we mentioned earlier. Lets you hit, you know, Gholdengo, Instant, and Sneasler as well. And then this is just Life Orb, Nasty Plot, Gholdengo, relatively standard stuff here, right? So good job, Lorsey. Then we go to Vincenzo. All right, Vincenzo Chico. Okay, shout outs to the drama, man, Vincenzo. Look at this set here. Hey, there's the Terra Steel D-Knight that we like, right? Of course, that was the set that we had on our Sarah-Ledge team that we gave Sam for 8-4 at Frankfurt. It's Dance Gambit. This is pretty much just Sneasler balance stuff, right? Nothing too crazy here. There's the Terra Fairy, Quiver Dance, Volcarona. So this type of Sneasler balance is still strong now as long as you know your lines. I like the Buzz is very good. You know, Buzz Gambit is also a lead that can give people a lot of trouble, right? You know, you have the Fast Taunt here. You have the Dance Gambit here. So this is pretty useful. And then as well as the Quiver Dance, Volcarona, Double Dance, as we like to call this. And then the Coaching Sneasler, which can, you know, be used into the D-Knight, into the Gambit, or even into the Rillaboom, depending on the scenario. So I like this team. I've always liked that team, especially even last year when it was used more. Then we have Rushiel. Hello, Rushiel. Again, another one that we like to welcome back. But here we go. It's the same idea, right? Another Sneasler balance team, but just different options here. You got Magmar instead of the Electabuzz here, right? Another taunt user with that redirector. You got Blizzard, Ninetales with Moonblast and Life Orb. Again, a little bit more aggressive damage, right? And there's the Encore for Disruption. Adaptability, Scarf, Basculegion, like we said earlier. Terra Fighting, by the way, so that was pretty cool. Then, again, Dance Gambit here. And then just high horsepower Rillaboom. Again, so useful coverage as opposed to U-Turn now. But again, this is also pretty cool. I like this team too. Then, you know, oh, well, actually, that was, I thought this was actually 8th place there. But that was it. So, all in all, just a couple notable things. Let's see. How many Gholdengos we got here in top cut? In top 8, I should say. You got 1, 2, you got 3 Gholdengos, right? And how many Rillabooms would you say? 1, 2, 3, 4 Rillabooms, but none in the top 4, right? They're in the bottom 4, but still, you know, still good results. How many Blood Moon Ursalunas? You've got 1, 2, and just 2 actually, right? And then 2 regular Ursalunas. How many D-Knights? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3 Dragonites there. So yeah, and then of course you got the 1, 2, 3 Gingambits there, right? So there's some common mons here, right? And even 3 Sneaslers here. So all in all, an interesting top 8, relatively diverse. You got the 2 Archaludon Reigns. You got the Doug Core over here. You got 2 Sneasler balance teams. You got Matt Titt's team, the outlier. All right, so all in all, you know, we'll see like what some of these other cores that were played, because there were still some good ones, even though they didn't make top 8. So let's take a look at those. All right, so let's take a look at some of the Archaludon Rain cores. I wanted to show you this one first because, again, this is the standard Archaludon Rain. This is the team that has been still strong even 5 months now into the format, right? 4 months from the first time of Regulation H, and now, of course, we're coming up on the end of September, and this is still a good team, right? So was that still the case here in Pittsburgh? So we'll take a look over here. Obviously, we'll skip a couple of these because we covered them already. But now we go down to 11. No, not, I'm sorry. Right here, James Evans here. So James almost has the same 6. The main change with James is actually a couple of things. First of all, he's not even Assault Vest Archaludon, he's Power Herb. But he is adding the Whimsicott over here as opposed to the Amoonguss, right? So you've got Encore, Fake Tears, Tailwind, right? Fake Tears, of course, is very strong with Archaludon and the Gholdengo over here, right? Then you've got AV Ensign, right? Scarf Pelipper is quite interesting, right? And this is what we were talking about earlier, how, you know, you might have the same 6 in the mirror, but look at the sets with your Pelipper versus James's Pelipper, right? He's running Scarf Pelipper, which means he's going to have Icy Wind support here and basically 3 other types, right? Weather Ball, Hurricane, and Muddy Water there, as opposed to, again, no Tailwind here, but that's because, you know, the Tailwind's on the Whimsicott over here. And look at this, Focus Sash Basculegion, right? And again, that is one of the big changes moving forward with Basculegion there. So we'll see what happens in some of these grassroots tournaments on Limitless as the weeks progress leading into Milwaukee, of course. But then as we move forward down here, here's the standard rain, right, from Darius. So let's take a look at it. Right, there we go. Right, Sash Pelipper, Tailwind here, Amoonguss, AV, Archaludon with Terra Fighting, then the Life Orb Gholdengo, the Banned Basculegion, and the Goggles Instant. This is as standard as it gets. Then Paul Chua running the same 6 again, right? But just different Terras. Look, you've got Bug Archaludon now. You still have Terra Psychic Amoonguss. Sometimes this will be Terra Water and whatnot. Then you even have the Terra Ground Pelipper, which is always an interesting choice. But again, this is very useful against another Archaludon in the mirror. So this way you can whiff the Electro Shot and the potential Thunderbolt damage. So that makes sense there. Then as you move further down here, this one's an interesting one, right? With the Hisuian Electrode, right? I don't think I've ever seen Hisuian Electrode get this high in a big regional here. But here we are, and it is a loaded dice set. Why? Because this has access to Bullet Seed, and it's very fast, right? It's faster than Dragon Ball, if I remember correctly. And look at this. Now you've got Electro Web access on your side there, right? And now you've got Thunderbolt and Worry Seed there for a little bit more tech choices there. So that's pretty useful against the sleep shenanigans, right? There's your preparation for the Sneasler stuff, the Amoonguss shenanigans there. How about the Annihilate being a nice addition here with the final Gamma Choice Scarf set? So quite the interesting Archaludon Pelipper team, right? So you've got these two, you've got the Instant Basculegion core, but these last 2 choices made all the difference here. And notice how this is Life Orb Basculegion with Protect. All right, so that's quite interesting. We used to see Rillaboom do this, right, with the Bullet Seed into the Archaludon, but now we're going with the Electro there. So shout outs to Scott, man. Great tech, great adjustment onto that. How about this one, right? Peter, again, same thing, using the same standard 6, but it's Terra Grass Gholdengo. How about that for an adjustment? Okay, and then Water Instant, Ghost Pelipper, everything else is pretty standard. Oh, wait, but we got Energy Ball Amoonguss. Ooh, okay, there we go. There's some tech there. Chris Hahn here, he's doing the Dragonite Ursaluna variant, the Arizabeth variant, right, with Gholdengo as well. It's the Scarf Gholdengo with Trick. So, again, just another variation. But again, I like the Sinistcha Ursaluna engine attached to this. This is Snarl Archaludon, by the way, so more damage mitigation there. And this one, I think we're going to see more or less the same ideas here from Brandon. Yeah, pretty much here, except this is not Snarl, and this is the Citrus Berry Sinistcha, right? You got Shadow Ball as a tech there, right? Instead of something like Life Dew or even Strength Sap, for example, there. So that's quite interesting because, there's no Gholdengo here. So maybe you want Shadow, Ghost coverage elsewhere. But now we get into a little bit more interesting ideas here, right? Look at William Brown here. And I wanted to cover William Brown and Blake Silver here in a separate video because I feel like these two deserve their own video in their own right. They found 2 partners that fit very well on these Archaludon raid teams here. I'm going to start here with Will Brown. And actually, the timing couldn't have been better because I saw this result from the last regional, right, with the Greninja, and I was trying to play around with it, and I almost made this video earlier, but I'm going to hold off on it because, again, I wanted to cover the tour first. But here we are, the Greninja here with the loaded dice, and that means, you got something that can, soak up the Water Shuriken, which in this case is the Archaludon, and or the Terra Water Annihilate there to activate your Rage Fist, right? And then everything else is just pretty standard. The Basculegion, the Pelipper, right? And even the Sinistcha over here. So Greninja has its selling point. It's got access to Haze, which is very, very nice. Dark Pulse also is great into Gholdengo. And what's really cool about Greninja is that speed trade. Let me just put this on the screen for a second here. Right? Base 122. And that is faster than Sneasler, right? So Water Shuriken in the rain can even just pick up. And remember, the idea with Water Shuriken, it does go first, right? It'll give you some priority there. So that's always nice. So I do like this team. I want to cover it separately in another video. But then we look at Blake. Look at Blake Silver. Similar thought process where maybe we can get something else onto this team besides, like a Basculegion. But here we are. Blake Silver says, you know what? I'm going to try Moxie Quaquaval, which we have seen maybe like once last year, right? But here we are, Aqua Jet, Aqua Step, Protect, Close Combat, very standard set there. But again, when you get things low enough and this thing, can KO with like an Aqua Step, not only are you going to get the speed boost, but you're also going to get the damage boost because of Moxie. So this thing can steamroll immediately, right? And you have all the tools that at your disposal to deal big damage in the beginning, right? You could easily just do, like I said before, Incineroar, Gholdengo, and just nuke with Make It Rain, right? Put things at like half health, less than half health. Then you bring in this guy and maybe even have Pelipper in the back to boost its damage even further with like, you know, for the Aqua Jet stab, right? And then you just go from there. So honestly, this is a really, really cool idea from both Blake and Will Brown there. So shout outs to them. You know, congrats, you know, on making those two water types work. But we're going to cover both of them in a separate video within the coming week here. All right. And then as we go further down here, look at this one. This one has Rillaboom and Kingambit. And there it is, another loaded dice Bullet Seed user. So we have now a few of them already. We have 3 loaded dice Pokemon here, right? You saw the Electrode, you saw the Rillaboom, and you saw the Greninja. Now, again, no Annihilate on this one, but again, still okay. We've seen this team last year as well. I remember this idea, okay? And here's the Buzz Gambit idea there. And Gambit loves the rain, right? Remember, Steel type in the rain is pretty standard, right? Because you take away the fire weakness because fire damage does less damage in the rain, right? This is Fairy Archaludon, which is quite interesting, right? So now you can whiff the Draco, right? And also you can resist the close combat, right? So that's also pretty cool there. And it's Terra, Grass, Basculegion to help you get around electric and grass priority moves. So then as we keep going here, are we going to see more or less the same ideas here? Devin, I think he's running the same stuff there. Terra, yeah, pretty much, right? That's the same 6. But then look at this, even further development. Look at Jonathan Lin here at 7.5. He's got the Gliscor, which is excellent into Sneasler, right? Ground flying typing. You resist both that stab and Poison Heal is quite interesting, right? So dual Wing Beat Swords Dance. Okay, so once again, another dance user that can take advantage and just go from there, right? Now, this is not Hyper Cutter, which is fine, but you can still outpace the Intimidates with the Swords Dance here. You got the Ground Move, which is always pretty much welcome here. And it is the Power Herb Archaludon because the AV is on the Sinistcha, right? I did see this once before. Matcha Gacha, Shadow Ball, Scald, Hex. Again, the AV is going to be quite nice against Blood Moon or Saluna going for Blood Moons, or even Gholdengo Shadow Ball shenanigans there. I'm pretty sure you're calc to live this stuff. And it even helps that you have Light Screen Grimmsnarl on teams like this there. So nice adjustments from all these guys that we've seen so far, you know, deviating away from the standard, right? Because you got to mix it up. You can't just always bring the same thing. Look at this one. I think they brought they probably worked together, right? You know, Austin and Jonathan. Yep, it pretty much looks like it, right? Yep, there's the AV Sinistcha for sure. And then look at this. Okay, how about this one? Tristan, 7-3 result here. What happened to the other games there? But anyway, look at Tristan bringing back good old reliable Kingdra, right, on a Pelipper team here with Archaludon. So this is quite interesting. So now this is your sweeper. The only thing with Kingdra is like, I just wish it had like 10 more base power because 90 something is just sometimes a little bit underwhelming. But in a lower power creep format, you can probably get away with it in some games just because things don't have as much stats as big legendaries, right? So this still can technically work, right? So great job, Tristan, bringing the Kingdra. Faster Swift Swim user than Basculegion, right? So look at this. Draco, Weather Ball, Muddy Water. Yeah, absolutely. Just don't miss, right? All right. So yeah, that's the last one I wanted to preview there. So nice ideas, you know, into Archaludon Rain. Again, it's just all about deviating from the standard skeleton and adding a couple of choices here and there that can make all the difference and that can add something to their teams that the mirror just does not have. All right, so now I want to take a look at some of the Sneasler teams that we saw. And I want to pay attention to the item on the Sneasler first of all. So if we go back into lab mouse data, let's take a look at this. So first of all, from day 1 usage altogether, right? There were 103 Psychic Seed Sneaslers there, right? Accounting for 36% of all the Sneaslers. Then after that, the second most common item was the Sash, followed by White Herb, and then Grassy Seed. 43 Sneaslers were Grassy Seed in day 1, 15%. That percentage probably goes up a little bit more as the format progresses here. But then as we go into day 2 here, let me just refilter out the teams here. Let's just go by 107 teams here. Then as we go into Pokemon here. Now for this, now look at this. It's still seeds, right? 17 Psychic Seeds, 9 Sash, 7 Grassy Seeds now, overtaking the wider variant. So now 18% of the Sneaslers in day 2 had a Grassy Seed, right? 7 of them. Okay, so it's interesting to note that because again, you know, that means more acrobatics, more Swords Dance Sneaslers there, right? And even though it wasn't the most item used here, the fact that it's starting to increase in usage just means that, you know, in Milwaukee, you might just see even higher of a percentage. So pay attention to that. But anyway, let's take a look at the Sneasler teams. Okay, as we look further into the Sneasler cores, I will note that a lot of them have the sand back engine of Tyranitar and Excadrill, right? So it's going to be Sneasler, Male Indeedee, right? Let me just remove some of this stuff here just to show you like the starting core. So you're going to have, let me just delete all this, right? I should have did it before I started recording. But anyway, you have Sneasler, you have the Male Indeedee, right? And the sets will depend, right? But then after this, you have Tyranitar. Then you have the Excadrill here. So you can always start a Sneasler Sand Balance kind of team with just these 4. And then these last couple of slots will just depend on how you want to play the squad overall, right? But as we scroll further down here, okay, let's look at this one, right? Look at Ben's team over here. Ben has the same 4 that we just described, but it is Choice Band Tyranitar. I haven't seen this in years, right? The last time I saw this was like back in Sword and Shield when Aldrich was laddering with Tyranitar, Lycanroc, and Dragapult there. I forget the rest of the team, but that was a funny team. Oh, Cobalion, right? Yo, Aldrich. Oh man, I wonder if he's still using some sort of variant like this on the side. But then we have the Dusclops over here. Look at this tech, right? Dusclops bulky Trick Room setter for your Blood Moon Ursaluna, which is kind of funny when you think about it. Consistent Nightshade chip damage, right? Will-O-Wisp to burn things, Pain Split to keep yourself healthy. Dusclops is kind of killing it right now in this format because no Calyrex, right? So you don't die. Yes, there's a Gholdengo, but you know, I'd be pressed to see Gholdengo go against, you know, stuff like Throw Chop, Sneasler, Excadrill, Tyranitar, Dark type overall, Blood Moon Ursaluna. Like of all 5 of these mons can pressure Gholdengo. So you know, Dusclops kind of just chilling right now. Then, you know, besides that, then look at this. Look at Daniel's team here. This is like typical standard Sneasler balance that we've already seen before. But then you can also slap it onto Dondozo Tatsugiri teams, right? So look at Tanner's team and look at Steven's team down here. So they both have some sort of Sneasler, Indeedee, Dondozo Tatsugiri team, right? So look at Tanner's team. So besides those 4, we're gonna go with Mousehold, Population Bomb, Rain Dance. There's your tech. Holy smokes. And then you've got Archaludon over here, right? So this way you can partner Mousehold with Archaludon, give yourself Rain, and then go for these electro shots, right? So we're basically playing a 2-2-2 Dondozo kind of team, right? So then look at Steven, same idea, right? 2-2-2 Dozo, where you have Sneasler, Indeedee, Dondozo Tatsugiri, Dragonite with Tailwind, and Blood Moon Ursaluna, of course, definitely appreciates the Tailwind. 2/3 of the Doug core, right? Great. Then we go down here, Blake Mullins. There we go. There's our Swords Dance, Grassy Seed, Terraflying, Acrobatic Sneasler. No Dire Claw. Okay, you got the Mouse-8 back engine here. You got Rillaboom and Gholdengo here, but more importantly, Rillaboom and Sneasler. Fake out Swords Dance is a play. Okay, and then from there, you could even just bring in your Mousehold, you know, have a little bit more Friend support, and then just start smacking things with Terraflying Acrobatics, +2, right? You still have Blood Moon Ursaluna. So this is like some kind of variation of Emmanuel's team, right? Because we're borrowing the Blood Moon Terra Electric idea here. So shout outs to Blake. Cool idea here with that Swords Dance, Grassy Seed Sneasler, that variant. I'll talk about this one from Tim Edwards in a bit. I want to look at P2 Balance a little bit more. Okay, then we look at Justin Karras here. I think this is like the Joe UX9 kind of team here with Corviknight and Annihilate. Yep, I remember this. But again, still using the same core 4. Then as we go further down here, then we'll look at stuff like this. Look at Ellie and Justin here. This is like Dragonite, Ursaluna, Gholdengo, Instant Amoonguss Sneasler. This is like typical standard Doug. Okay, this we've seen many times. Then over here from Ellie, this is like Whimsicott, Dragonite, Gholdengo kind of core. Then we have Sneasler Instant for double fake out pressure. And then Garchomp decides to join along here for the double Dragon core. and with Whimsicott being the other Tailwind user. How about Choice Band Dragonite though? So we're seeing a little bit more use of that, because remember, Ofamezi was using that, which we'll look at in a second. This one here, similar concept. I think this is like Chuppa's team from last year. It had the Volcarona with the Sand 5 and Annihilate here. This is now replaced by Corviknight in a more modern twist, but still can play more or less similar ideas here. I'll speak about Orthworm in a little bit later. This is more 2-2-2 Dozo stuff. There's the Justin Tang team idea. But again, lots of Sneasler being used. Right? Oh, how about this Sneasler balancing, but this time using Salamence? Other than that, it's the same concept. This one here, right? Very hyper offensive. I remember this kind of team as well, right? Indeedee with Whimsicott here, Sunny Day, Delphox, Power Herb stuff, Mousehold, Population Bob, Sneasler, Dragapult here. The two fastest mods in the format that's not named Hisuian Electrode, right? So that was a team. And then, again, more or less some of the same stuff that we've seen already. So, yeah, I mean, it's just quite interesting to see. Oh, wait, let me look at this one here from Joseph. Is this? Yep, there we go. There's another variant here with that Grassy Seed idea. So, Volcarona with Quiver Dance, right? Terra Electric Blood Moon. There's the Ninetales giving screens and Blizzard. Scarf Basculegion with adaptability. And here's the Rillaboom again, of course, with the Sneasler. So, look at this little Fire Water Grass core we got going here, right? With Volk, Basculegion, and Rillaboom here. And here's the screens, Ninetales, here's the Blood Moon Ursaluna, right? So, yeah, honestly, you know, be prepared. This one I want to look at once because it has Milotic, and we love Milotic. You see how we have it on the bottom of our screen here. Look at this one, another Grassy Seed Sneasler with Rillaboom. There's D-Knight giving Tailwind with Gholdengo, Leftovers Dengo. And here's the Milotic, the competitive user that is meant to, you know, discourage, intimidates onto these mons. Scald, Ice Beam, Haze. Okay, yes, pretty standard ideas there. Berry Recovery is quite nice. And again, with Haze, you can partner this vocal thing though. You know, just click Make It Rain, haze away all your debuffs, which is really, really nice. I like it a lot. But yeah, so Sneasler, Grassy Seed, Swords Dance teams, they're mixing it up a little bit. They're barring the Blood Moon Ursaluna, which is fine. And of course, they're going to have the Rillaboom. So from there, it's just how you want to round out your other 3 slots. I want to also look at Dondozo Tatsugiri teams here, because we actually had quite a few this time around, and they're starting to pick up again. For a while, they were losing a little bit of respect, but now I think you got to re-respect them, if that makes any sense. So look at this. Quite a few of them were in day 2, right? And this might rise a little bit more in Milwaukee. We'll have to wait and see. We've already taken a look at Tanner's team here and Steven's team, right? Because again, with the Sneasler Indeedee back engine here, with Dragonite going for Tailwind support, helping the Blood Moon Ursaluna, this is like one idea for Dondozo Tatsugiri stuff. You know, unaware Dozo, you know, that's how you match up against the other Dondozo, right? You use your own Dozo. That's one concept. Then look at this. Then you have Santino, right? This one has like a little bit more traditional feel because you have Talonflame, Glimmora, and Gholdengo with this, along with Tatsugiri Dondozo. That was like Regulation A stuff, okay? But it still works, right? And now you add the Annihilate with Focus Sash here. It's very interesting. So you still got to respect Dondozo stuff. I kind of like this, and this is kind of funny when you think about it, okay? Then as you go further down, look at this. How about Garganical making a little bit more of a comeback here? Just like what you saw from Pengi's team, aka Stefan. Now we're adding it here with the Dondozo kind of core with Dragonite, Gholdengo, and Sneasler. Yes, sir. Coaching. You know, you can technically just like protect and then coach your own Dondozo, right? And then you can go into Tatsugiri. So now you're like quote unquote +3, and that makes a big difference, right? So it's quite interesting when you think about it. I actually like that idea. So, you know, shout outs to Calvin here for finding this. But this is not a new idea. I think we've seen this before. It's just, you know, we've been playing Uber so long that we don't get a chance to use some of this stuff until like Regulation H comes around, which is what we are in right now. All right, Joey, what are we doing here with Dozo Tatsugiri? We're doing Sneasler and Indeedee stuff like we showed earlier, but Archaludon is coming in the back pair with Alolan-Ninetales here. Yeah, I can totally see this, right? Set up a Roar Veil, right? Then deals damage with Archaludon, and then you can even just clean things up with Dondozo Tatsugiri behind screens, if anything, right? So yeah, I could even see like Ninetales, Dozo lead, set up Aurora Veil, protect maybe turn 1, then you go into Tatsugiri, then you start going ham from there, right? Imprison Trick Room is a great way to shut down Trick Room teams. Look at this one. How about another Glamour idea, this time with Tyranitar and Galarian and regular Weezing. Okay, we've seen this before, but again, it is not neutralizing gas Weezing. It is actually Levitate Weezing. Funny enough, right? Partnered with Garchomp here. Okay, very interesting choice, I will say. Will-O-Wisp Toxic Dark Balls. Did we really need the Weezing for this? That's what I want to know. Okay, or are we just getting ready for Global Challenge, which is coming up in a week? I don't know. But hey, they made it work. So shout outs to Haley. Great job there. Then this one, we've seen this already, you know, with Tailwind Volk and then 8 Goggles here with coaching. Again, same idea. You can coach your own Dozo. You can coach the D-Knight if you want. And then go into Tatsugiri, Dondozo, you know, the commander pair. Then this one, 6-6, your last one for day 2. Again, Dondozo stuff. Tailwind Whimsicott. All right. Mirror Herb Arcanine, which is great into King Gambit stuff. You can copy the Defiant boost there. But overall, listen, man, don't stop respecting Dondozo, okay? This is too many teams in day 2 where you can, like, ignore it because it is still a thing. So, Dondozo is back. So you mentioned earlier when we were looking at the usage rates how there's a lot more Alolan-Ninetales as the format has gone on so far. And I like this core, right? With Dragonite, Ninetales, and Gholdengo, the fantasy core, you know, Fairy Dragon Seal or Dragon Fairy Seal, however you want to say it. So as we go back here, we can kind of see a few of those already, especially this one right here. Let's look at Yi Chun-Woo's team over here. It's actually also using the Archaludon with the Power Herb idea here. But either way, Skill Shot, Tailwind Haze, Standard D-Knight set with Terra Steel, Sash, Alolan-Ninetales, and then of course the Life Orb Gholdengo here. Last 3 slots is going to be AV Incin, Annihilate with the coaching idea, right? And then here's the last slot here with the Archaludon. So this is one way to run it. That's it's a good way. And I think Dawei was also running that, more or less the same idea, but I think this one has Encore and Disable, funny enough there, but I think that's still pretty good there. Yeah, this one had Icy Wind, so there's that slight difference there. I think all the Terras are also more or less the same, right? Grass Incin, yep, it looks like it. So, then after that, where else can we see? I'm going to look at Rajan's team a little bit later, of course, right? Because that has the regular Ninetales, which is something that you normally don't see at all. But even this one right here, this one looks like it could be a Sneasler balancing, but there is no Sneasler, okay? It's just more like a Gambit Buzz balance with Ninetales slap onto this. It's Grassy Seed Volcarona, by the way. So if anything, this could be like a Volcarona kind of team there. So that's pretty cool. We already know like the Justin Tang variant, right? With the, or Shilion Tang as well, right? With D-Knight, Ninetales, and the Gholdengo here. Wait a second. A little bit of a change up here. It's not Grassy Seed Gholdengo. It's Life Orb Gholdengo. Maybe they didn't like it. Okay, well, that's still fine too. All right. And then everything else is just pretty much the same there. So that still works, right? Then this one here from Rowan Hall. Okay, you got the typical core here. Then you might as well just slap on Ursaluna, right? Where you can get the Doug core. And then here is the Rillaboom here. And then here's Annihilate just to deter Intimidates, you know, onto your D-Knight here. But again, Annihilate is just also so good overall. Then as we move further down, can we see other variants? This one, again, we just previewed this one, but look at this. This one has the Grassy Seed Gholdengo, right? AV Blood Moon, right? Partnered with Alolan-Ninetales with the Icicle Spear. And then here's the Ape, right? That is meant to, again, bulk up the Rage Fist damage, right? And, you know, you just go from there because you've taken hits 5 times. Where else are we looking at here? This one with Volk again, right? But this one has Rage Powder Overheat set, right? This is a Specs Ninetales set, so a little bit more damage, right? This one has Low Kick D-Knight, very interesting. And then Coaching Sneasler, right? Because there's like 3 things you can coach here, which makes a lot of sense. So more Sneasler balance stuff along with the Ninetales support. Then we have, even though this one was 5-3 again from Kevin Miller, but still same idea here. Life Orb Ninetales, Magmar, Gambit, Basculegion here, Fire Water Grass. We've seen this already before. So yeah, I mean, the easy thing to do is just when you have this kind of core, slap on Ursaluna, right? And then these last slots just really depend on you. Like if you want to add the Rillaboom here, makes a lot of sense. You want to add Annihilate, also makes sense. But you know, Blood Moon Ursaluna just to fill out the Dugcore here is just also relatively solid. Because again, if you have screens, then a lot of this just is hard to break, right? And you know, you're just dealing big damage from all three of these Pokemon here. So if you really wanted to start an Alolan-Ninetales, you could either just do stuff like this, or just do like the balance stuff with Gambit and you know, some redirector like Electabuzz or Magmar. All right, how about some Porygon-2 Balance? Again, we kind of covered this in our own P2 Balance video about a week or two ago. Not a week ago, like 2 weeks ago. This is like the standard 5, right? Instant P2, Fake Out Trick Room, and then you have the Ursaluna in the back end just to sweep under Trick Room, right? Then you have Amoonguss here that can also come as a lead with the P2 if you want, and then Gholdengo is just like a strong special attacker to slap onto this, right? This last slot here, this 6th slot is always going to be different there, and sometimes even one of these 5 may not even come. So taking a look here, look at Kelly and Brown. Instead, we're getting Hydreigon here, which we've covered before as well in our video. But Levitate, good synergy with the Ursaluna where you can Earthquake next to it. Snarl is great into other Gholdengos, other Blood Moon Ursalunas, other Archaludons. So this is pretty good. I like Hydreigon. It's great as like a side spam matchup. Great into like Indeedee Sneasler stuff as well. Henry Rich here saying, listen, I'm going to go Kilowattrel instead, right? Where we can have Tailwind, and then we can make this Ursaluna faster, right? And then we can just Earthquake next to that. And I have seen sometimes a little bit of Discharge play with it. But anyway, this also makes sense too, right? Competitive is nice with Ursaluna, so this way you can deter Intimidates into it. So that makes sense too. Then you have this one where you can just add Sneasler here, right? But also, you also have Dragonite here. So look, you have Instant P2, Amoonguss, Gholdengo, no Ursaluna, right? Instead, we're just going Dragonite, Sneasler here. So we still have like a fast mode, right? With Tailwind and D-Knight here. And then look at the coaching Sneasler idea. So you can even just coach this. But then as you move further down, you still have, well, we'll talk about Jump Bluff some a little bit later. More Hydreigon stuff here. Still the same thing with Safety Goggles. This one here with Clefable, right? Clefable and Gambit. I like this team actually. This team is actually pretty cool. Again, Clefable, like we showed in the Sneasler video before this one, very good into Mouse 8 because you have Unaware, right? They have a hard time breaking you. And then you can start healing your Ursalunas if anything, heal your P2, let this be the sweeper if anything, or even the Gambit, right? Clefable Gambit, we use that combo quite a bit in that Sneasler video. So this also makes sense. I like this team. Good job, Eric. And look at the aggressive Farigiraf set here with Hyper Voice Throat Spray, right? +1 Farigiraf with Psychic is going to do like pretty good damage there. And it's Terraflying P2, pretty good synergy with Ursaluna. And then you can also blow up the Sneasler right back because you have Terraflying now. You resist the fighting move. Yeah, I like this. So overall, pretty cool team. I think it's one of my favorite teams of the tour. So shout outs to Eric. Then what else? Kilowattrel we've seen already. More Sun stuff. That's expected. Annihilate is an interesting spot over there as opposed to Amoonguss, but it still makes sense. But that's pretty much it, right? Otherwise, the other P2 teams are just like the Charizard Sun team, which I guess we can cover next. Okay, there were a couple of Jump Bluff Sun teams, but there was one that was very, very different from the usual stuff. And that was right here at 39 plays from Edward Glover. Look at this. Bronzong with Levitate, Ice Spinner, blowing up terrain, Trick Room, Body Press, Iron Defense. Iron Defense, Body Press, and Trick Room. Very, very cool set. Of course, I've always liked Bronzong with that kind of set there. It just needs the right format for it. And then Ice Spinner is that last move there can be like Gyro Ball, for example, but Ice Spinner is actually quite interesting when you think about it. Blood Moon can't hit this very well, right? You can't click Earth Power, and you resist the normal stuff. So it's great into that. And same thing with like the regular Ursaluna. You resist Facade, and you can't get hit by ground type attacks. So it's also great into both Ursalunas in general. Then after that, Jump Bluff with Torkoal and Zard. This is expected here with Instant Goggles and an Ursaluna, right? And then I feel like this is just taking the place of Porygon, in my opinion, right? So it was an interesting choice. I would like to know the reasoning behind it. By the way, with the Psychic typing, you're just neutral to the close combat. And if anything, if you can get these IDBPs up, then Bronzong can kind of just wall out the fighting coverage anyway. So this is a Pokemon, man. And unlike Porygon, by the way, here's another niche, right? You can Earthquake next to your own Bronzong, and you couldn't do that as an Ursaluna with the P2. So now you have that going for you as well. So honestly, I like this. This is not a bad adaptation or not a bad variance pick for the Bronzong. Again, you don't have Recover, but you got IDBP, right? You don't need to click Recover when you can just start one-shotting things with this, right? So I like it. It's a pretty cool option here. Other than that, you know what you're getting with the others, right? With the Specs Zard yet again. This one has Weather Ball Overheat, no Blast Burn here. Jump Bluff, Ursaluna, P2, Eject Pack Torkoal. That's what these guys are running as well. So you had a couple of the Sun teams in day 2, right, from last year. But I think the Bronzong one was the interesting pick. Okay, now I also want to preview a Hard Trickum team, right? And usually you'll see this for Indeedee, Hatterene, Torkoal, and Ursaluna. And then these last 2 slots are up for grabs here. But this is like the standard. And usually with Hard Trickum, you know, again, it always gets this knack for being a little bit too linear, easy to predict, easy to play around, easy to play but hard to master. Because again, all you really have to do is just stall out the Trickum turns, and once they are stalled out, hit them super hard and super fast. So this way they don't get a chance to reset the Trick Room. Use your protects, use your fake outs, of course, right? So there has to be some way where you can vary up your team and make it so that you make the opponent guess a little bit and say, you know what, this is not very linear as far as like Hard Trick Room. So if we go into the tournament, look at this, right? Pretty much a lot of the Hard Trick Room teams are like 5-3s or 4-4s, right? Because they all built the same and they all played the same. And we've seen this play style for years already, right? This hasn't really changed, but look at what has changed here. And we saw this with Jin Furai because, again, this is his team. How about the return of Tom Hayden here in Pittsburgh here? It's been a minute, Mr. Tom. So congrats on 9-3. We did see him on stream, you know, with James Evans later on in Top Cut here. Not Top Cut, day 2. But here we are. Look at this. This is the same team as what Jim was using back at Monterrey, right? Yeah, it was Monterrey. You got Indeedee, Hatterene, Torkoal, Ursaluna. So you still have those 4, right? It's going to be Specs Torkoal with Fissure, right? And then Ursaluna standard. Hatterene, also pretty cool, but look at that skill swap idea. Oh, that's very, very interesting. And Covert Cloak is quite nice. Again, the Snarl Shenanigans is not great. Terrifier, that's very useful against Gholdengo. Rillaboom with Life Orb is quite interesting, right? Because, and also just like a secondary terrain user onto this. Usually you don't see that on Hard Trickum, but it does make you think here, right? But anyway, so you can even just bring in Rillaboom once the Indeedee terrain has changed, and then, or it gets knocked out, you can come in, click Fake Out, and click some nuker next to it, right? Or just go for priority Grassy Glides is also fine as well. How about the Scarf Zard here with Torkoal, you know, doing big damage in the sun, especially when it is a Scarf user, because again, there's things that outspeed it. So that's going to be important. Fire Spin is a tech. You can trap things in so it doesn't swap. All right, Air Slash, Heat Wave, Overheat. My goodness, this is a team. Okay, and the Fissure Torkoal. I don't know how many times Tom clicked Fissure or how many times he connected on it, or even if he did click it in the tour. But, you know, Fissure's always just for that, you know, that button that you can always click if you need an out, right? Maybe it's not a high percentage out, but it is an out, right? It's better than 0% chance of winning, right? At least it gives you something. But here we are. Life Orb Rillaboom is very interesting. You know, again, it's like high horsepower with the Life Orb. It's going to do a lot of damage into Gholdengo and Instant, right? Which is kind of what you can lead into like Indeedee Hatterene, right? It's very strong into it. So if you can use this to your advantage, right? Especially when, you know, without an Intimidate drop, it can do quite well there. So I respect this team. I would like to try this team myself. I think we can just slap on some of our own EVs onto this and maybe try it out one day. But we'll see how it works out when we get a chance to do it. But shout outs to Tom. Welcome back. Everything else, you know what you're getting with stuff like this, right? With the Gallade, you know, the Mouse Hold here, Taunt Population Bomb, nuke something. And then even Gallade here, very good into Incineroar, especially, right? Because again, Sharpness with Sacred Storage can just one-shot it. You don't get Intimidated because of Clear Amulet. Everything else is pretty standard. By the way, Hatterene Mystical Fire Terrifier is also really nice into Gholdengo if they want to lead that into you as well there. So yeah, you know, these hard trick room teams, they're gonna have to find some variance, some way to get around the linear stuff. You know, if Jin's team is one way to do it, I'm sure there's other ways to do it. All right, so from here, I kind of want to just spotlight some of the more niche Pokemon that we got to see do very, very well in Phase 2, right? And there was quite a bit, and it's nice to see some Pokemon that normally don't get any kind of play in competitive, and now all of a sudden they can get some good results because of the lower power creep format here, right? We've already covered a few already, but you know, that was just because of the nature of the core that I was covering. But now let's take a look at some of the others. So we'll start right here. How about Rajan Ball with regular Ninetales here? All right, Drought with Charcoal here. Heat Wave, nasty plot overheat. My goodness. Okay, we chose Violence today, Mr. Rajan Ball. Okay, follow me with the mouse hold. Can you just easily set that up? Look at this Whimsicott here. Of course, no Manual Sun here, but again, Tailwind, Heat Wave is also strong. All right, you got D-Knight here. Standard stuff with Life Orb, Blood Moon, or Saluna, so you can easily just leave these two, start nuking, right? So this is pretty cool. I like this a lot. Then as we move further down here, after Rajan's team, we've already covered Ben's team with the Dusclops there. He wasn't alone. There was another one with him. But after this, where was the Orthworm? I think I missed it, but I think we'll run into something else before we get to that. We've already covered Tom's team, the Hisuian Electro team from Scott with the loaded dice set into the Archaludon. We covered that already. This one right here. Look at this one from Soru. We got Gardevoir with Telepathy, okay, which means you can pair this with Excadrill. Yes, sir. Okay, and it's Scarf too. So you can even just help Excadrill outspeed some stuff first. You can just go for Indeedee Gardevoir, right? Helping Hand, Expanding Force. So you got some Sand Size Spam stuff going on here if you really wanted to do that. And then, of course, like we said earlier, Earthquake next to the Gardevoir here. Tyranitar is, you know, weakness policy Tyranitar. Very interesting idea there. Okay, I guess it works. Blood Moon or Saluna. Again, Talonflame, Tailwind support with the Blood Moon here. We've seen this combo before. Very interesting idea. But this is a pretty cool Size Spam Sand team. You know, you don't get to see Gardevoir all that often. And it does work with Excadrill here because of telepathy. So I kind of like this. So yeah. Then as you move further down here, we've already covered Edward's team with the Bronzong. Then what else can we find here that was quite interesting? Yeah, we've already looked at Williams' team with the Greninja, as well as the Quaquaval team from Blake Silver, you know, onto the Archaludon range stuff. There we go. There's the Orthworm team. There's the synergy with Excadrill again. So Sneasler, Indeedee, Excadrill, Tyranitar. There's your core 4. And then you slap on Kilowattrel and the Orthworm here, which again, you can get healing if you click ground moves next to it. And also on the recipient end, right, Orthworm is a great switch in, right? Because both Tyranitar and Excadrill are weak to ground. Same thing with your own Sneasler. So this is also really cool. Then Shed Tail, right? You can just click that, hide behind that sub, and then from there, just start going bonkers, right? So I think that's also an interesting use of the Orthworm there next to some sand stuff. So shout out to Tony. Cool idea there. This one has a little bit more niche idea. How about the Bandit Chomp with Neutralizing Gas, Galarian Weezing, Kilowattrel here, Life Orb Gambit. Okay, with Iron Head, of course. Goggles, Furgraph, and Ability Shield Incineroar. So you really want your Intimidate, huh? Okay. This is another team, right? Again, with Kilowattrel, Garchomp, you can click Tailwind and click Bandit Earthquake. It's going to do a lot of damage, right? And then Furgraph, Gambit. There's your other kind of Trick Room core where you could even just do Instant Furgraph, fake out Trick Room, Parting Shot into Gambit, and then just go with the Trick Room mode there if you really want. What else are we looking at here? How about Nick Borgi with the Sableye? We've seen this team before, actually, from the previous regional, right? Light Screen, Reflect, Disable, Taunt, right? Mouse hold here, Annihilate there, hiding behind screens. No Sinistcha here, but again, you still have Rillaboom here, so still fine. What else we got here? Aiden's team here is just like Sneasler Balance with Salamence. We like Salamence, of course. It's one of our old favorites. At least you can get intimidated onto that team because usually you don't really have access to it. What else are we going to look for? This one is another... Oh, this one's a weird one. Look at this one. Actually, I think we covered this one, right? Yeah, we did. It's another Dozo variant. Jonathan Lin again with the Gliscor. He wasn't the only one using that. This one is also interesting, right? 7-5 Tailwind Whimsicott with Flamigo and Gholdengo. Usually you see the Flamigo on the P2 Balance teams, but in this case we're getting it with Hyper Offense with Whimsicott and Gholdengo and Blood Moon Ursaluna, right? So interesting idea there. How about Armarouge, Indeedee Armarouge, right? With Pult. I thought this was going to be like U-turned into, what's that ability called? Like weak armor and then expanding weakness policy stuff. I thought it was going to be that because usually that's what I see with the U-turn Pult stuff. But this is also okay. There's Stefan Mott remodifying his team a little bit. No more Sylveon. Instead, he's going with Jan Fissure Dondozo. All right. I respect the play. Okay. Definitely respect it. 7-5. Not nearly what he wants, I'm sure. Because he's just coming off a win. Probably, a little bit of fatigue maybe. But hey, I respect the choice. You got to try it out, right? What else are we looking at? Another Sand variant here with Whimsicott and Buzz Ape here. No Swords Dance here. This is just straight up. Oh, beat up, right? This is Whimsicott beat up into Annihilape. Oh, there we go. There's a play. That'll be so what you could easily do is if they ignore your Whimsicott, you can go like Tailwind, Make It Rain, or Tailwind Earthquake. If they get rid of the damaging slot, then you can go into your ape, then you can do beat up into your own ape, right? So that makes sense too. Is there anything else that we're looking for here? We've already seen Heat Proof, Sinistcha. That's also slightly rising here. We looked at Tyler's team earlier with the expanding force shenanigans, right? With Sneasler, Dragapult here, expanded Pult, Delphox there. What else? Oh, how about this one? 6-2. Now, Sam couldn't play in Dave 2, but so we still got to shout him out, man. He's got the Araquanid here with the Ursaluna Furgraph Trick Room Core. Then he's got a little bit of a fast mode with Kilowattrel and Alolan-Ninetales. Click Tailwind, click Blizzard. Why not? Makes sense. And then AV Ensign. A little bit of a balance idea here, but again, can be played in multiple modes, whether it be the Trick Room mode or the fast mode. So I respect it. Where else? I think that was pretty much it. Let me look at some of the 5-3s because sometimes, some 5-3s are a little bit more of a hidden gem there. But again, there were some other things that were quite useful there. There's the Vivian, right, with Dylan's team. That was pretty cool. Back Scalper Balance. We haven't really seen that much here. If anything, how about this one? Blake Falls, Palafin, and Stone Journer. Yo, I saw this tweet on, and I wanted to look at it too. So here it is. Palafin getting some result, right? A little bit in Pittsburgh. So yeah, there's a Mandibuzz here. Look at this. 5-3. Is it Tailwind? Yeah, it is. Tailwind, Snarl, Foul Play. That's the way to go with this. Then you have Obama Snow. Wow. There it is. Okay. Now we're cooking here. But anyway, let me just end it right there. So yeah, it just goes to show you, look, man, there's lots of things that are still viable. You just need to explore their niche, right? And find a way to have some synergy onto your team, but also add something that you could do into the meta. So not only does it need synergy, but it also has to add something. That's what Bronzong is doing here, right? You have some synergy with Ursaluna, right? IDBP, you get to neutralize the Sneasler stuff, and it's also helpful into Ursaluna stuff, right? So, and you get to blow up terrain with Ice Spinner, which is something that P2 cannot do. So there's the niche there. That's what I mean, right? But anyway, let's wrap it up here and let's go to a little bit of a closing screen here. All right, so that's it. That's our recap of Pittsburgh there. So quite interesting. Again, if I had to summarize Pittsburgh in a little bit, I would just say a lot of the standard teams are still doing well, but what people are starting to do now is start varying the sets and the Terra types. And for example, the Basculegion Focus Sash, right? That's one of the big things moving forward that you're going to expect to see a little bit more of, right? Then you have that Alolan-Ninetales with the Terra Blast, Terra Ground idea, right? That will probably get a little bit more play if it hasn't gotten more play already. We've already spoke about the Grassy Seed Sneasler stuff, right? With the Acrobatics Swords Dance idea with no Dire Claw, right? Close combat and then just protect, and of course it is Terra Flying, right? Then you'll start to see more experimentations with the Blood Moon Ursaluna and the Terra type. You've already seen Electric, right? And where's that Electric Terra? Okay, and then we've already seen fire. Okay, and prior to both of these, we've saw water, right? But water was like a little bit more standard heading into, you know, September in general, right? But it's this set right here, you know, with the yawn and the protect, and then the leftovers, right? Just getting recovery. Why is my caps button like, dude, right? So you'll see stuff like this. Okay, and then Dragonite, right? Dragonite over. Wait. We forgot to do Ultimate. I almost missed it, right? But again, Dragonite over here. With the band set, maybe more people are going to play this now, right? We got to see a couple of them, you know, do relatively well in the tour, and perhaps this can also do a little bit more moving forward here. And then of course, let's not forget the Choice Specs Gholdengo, right? Like, of course, this is the thing that won, right? Again, immediate damage, immediate offense, put things in range for your back end mons, right? You don't have to waste time setting up. Let's just hit hard, hit fast, hit now. And then even at -1, or like even at -2, like Specs Gholdengo is still doing like pretty hard damage, right? So you might as well just stay in and do a little bit more chip, and then just let them knock it out, and then just, you know, go from there. So those are just some things that I noticed, just as far as like some of the sets that are changing and moving, you know, with some of these mons here. But before that, I want to also just look at Ultimate team here. I feel like I somehow missed it here, but look at this Choice Band set with Giga Impact. All right, Mirror Herb Incineroar, right, with the Grass Terra, of course. Again, great into King Gambit because you can copy the Defiant boost it gets. Sash Whimsicott, Life Orb Gholdengo here. Like, again, Dragonite Gholdengo, Whimsicott here with Mousehold is also quite good. Then you slap on Adaptability Basculegion, okay, right, with the Terra Fighting here. And it's just Terra Blast, Terra Fighting. You can nuke other Gambits, right, if they want to Sucker Punch you, which is kind of funny when you really think about it. But overall, this is a pretty cool team that I think more people are going to explore a little bit more of. So shout out to Ultimate. All right, but anyway, so that's it for now, folks. If you're interested in coaching on the channel, remember how we coached Sam into day 2 with Sarah Ledge 8-4 results. We can do the same for you. A lot of you have signed up for coaching with Milwaukee and even Las Vegas, man. That Las Vegas is in November. Okay, let's get through Milwaukee first. But if you are interested in getting help from Milwaukee, not sure which direction to take your team after Pittsburgh, now that we have these results, we'll also take a look at Victory Road, and then maybe that can even help you a little bit more. But if you still need a session with us, make sure you sign up. Look in the video description below. Look in the comment section. Sign up for Tier 3 using the link that we provided. And then from there, we can organize something and find a time to meet. Otherwise, if you also want the team building session with the critique of your battles, where you get to send me showdown replays, and I will give you advice on, you know, how to optimize your play a little bit more, that is the Tier 4. So again, clicking the same link, you just have to click the Tier 4 option. All right, but that's it for now, folks. We'll be back with another video in the next one. Peace out and have a good one.